Hi everyone. We want to take a look at one more time calculating some standard deviation. This time I'm going to start you out with a grouped frequency table. Okay, so we've got a grouped table different from before. We've covered how to do standard deviation from just data. We've done standard deviation from an ungrouped table. Now we're looking at a grouped table. And if you remember, I'm going to sneak around here, group means we have something for classes, either limits or boundaries, depending on the situation. In this example, we have boundaries. And I sure hope by now you know boundaries. You can tell because they're continuous between the classes. Okay, so for our new formula for a group table, okay, I can give you a complicated one, but like the previous, okay, I've simplified it. So again, it's going to feel very similar to what you've had in the last two ways of calculating. So since we have a grouped table, we can't actually see the data. So as an estimator, we are going to use the midpoints of the classes. So remember to calculate that midpoint. You're going to add the values in the classes and divide by 2. So this first one I come up with 8. Okay. To quickly fill that midpoint column, remember to check out what your width is over here for your table. Width on this one is 5. So if we just add 5 down, we can fill in our midpoints without doing all of the individual calculation. Okay, so we'll do this here real quick. Okay, so on the grouped problem, on the ungrouped problem, we would calculate F times X as a column. So we're going to feel the same way on this one. We're just going to multiply by midpoint. So the next column here is frequency times midpoint. Oh, and I should probably mention, if you want to, and you want to load things in your calculator again, it is fine to put like frequency in L1, midpoint in L2. You just want to keep track in your head what's where. Okay, so like L3 would then become L1 times L2. And if you want, you can come on over here to L4, and you could say, okay, frequencies in L1 times L2 would be L2 squared to fill in that last column. And again, that's an option. You don't have to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up calculating frequency times midpoint. So we're coming across here to fill in this D column. Okay, 112, 99, 76. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to get our fx squareds. Okay, and again, keep track of what you're doing here. So frequency would be 1. X squared is your midpoint squared. So we have a 64. Okay, so frequency times the midpoint squared, 338, and so forth. So you just have to really keep track. If you square the wrong thing, you'll be sad. Or you'll say, Miss Highland, I did it again. Okay, so there our columns are filled. Okay, and so just like before, if we can think about, we need 3 values to fill the formula. So we're going to need an n. We're going to need a sum of f times xm. And we're going to need a sum of f times xm squared. All right, so again, n comes from the sum of the frequency. Okay, so if we add up those values, that should give you a 20. The sum of f times xm, if you add this column up, it's 490. And the last column, sum of f times xm squared, comes up to 13,310. Okay, so I'm going to just scroll down here. And we're doing pretty much what's written in the steps. I'm just talking you through it instead. All right, so let's begin our variance calculation. Okay, so by the formula, n comes first, so I'm looking up here quick. N and then f times x squared. So n in this problem was 20. That fx squared column is 13,310 minus 490 squared. And then it's all over 20 times 19. So I hope by now this is starting to feel familiar. We're pretty repetitive. It's just a little tweak in the calculation. So on top, if you do your arithmetic separately. We're at 26,100, divide by 380, and I'm coming up with around 68.7. That's your S squared, better known as the variance. Okay, and by now you're getting to be experts. In order to get the actual standard deviation value, remember to take the square root of the variance. So your S value is going to be 68.7, and we're going to take the square root of that, and we land at 8.3. So standard deviation 8.3, and that's your final answer for this problem. Awesome. Okay, and so now you're thinking, I wonder if teacher wants me to put this on my formula sheet. You know I do. Okay, so please add for a grouped frequency table formula to calculate. Okay, hope that went real well, and you all have a nice day. We'll see you.